have an answer. Anyway, so like a month later, another leader, very similar to the first, says the exact same words. All right, what's the one thing? What's the one thing you need to do? And internally, I'm doing this like eye roll. Like, why do leaders have to reduce things to the one thing? Like, it just is such a personality trait, right? Like, give me just one thing. And I sense the Holy Spirit say, get off your high horse right now. Stop. Just stop. This person, he is literally asking what you think. And all of your fancy answers to how deep this topic is and how nuanced it is, he's not able to listen to all that, but he will listen to whatever you say next. I've put you in his life. I've given you favor in his eyes. You need to answer this question. And I was like, okay, but like, I don't have an answer, God. Like, what is the answer? I don't have a one thing. And this doesn't happen often in my life, Michael, I promise you. But man, the few times it has, I'm so grateful. I just felt like I heard from God say, you just tell him he needs a page, a person, and a plan. And I was like, you do alliteration? Like, come on.
A 3-point sermon came from the Lord.
I know, right? Like, who would have guessed? And I kind of sense like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But tell him he needs a page, a person, and a plan. And so I did. Like, I didn't really think about it. I just started telling this person, it was a Zoom call, kind of like this. And I just said, well, you really kind of need a page. Here's one way to think about it. You need a page, a person, and a plan. And here's what I mean by that. First of all, guys, if you're listening and you're willing to take care of your soul, please keep these 3 things in mind. And because of the alliteration, they can kind of count as one. It's a page, a person, and a plan. What I mean by a page is this. Your leadership will be, you'll hit a pretty profound ceiling at the capacity that you possess for self-reflection. A page is sort of a shorthand way of referring to the invitation of a journal, of writing things down, reflecting. Why am I doing this? How do I feel today? What was behind that snappy response I gave to my spouse? Anything like that. God, where are you in this situation? That kind of reflection is vital. And there's, interestingly, not surprising, I guess, because of God being God, but there's neuroscience, strong neuroscience findings under each of these 3 things. So the first is an invitation to the page, an invitation to reflection. The second, the person, is honestly one of the hardest things that we find for leaders, because the higher you are in a leadership responsibility role, the more visible you are publicly, the less there are people who can just be your friend, who can show up and be for you and who don't need you to be anything or do anything. And those safe places are vital. They are absolutely vital, whether you find that through a ministry peer in your town or a spiritual director or a coach or a therapist, doesn't matter. We all need somebody who is for us and who can be with us in the ups and downs of life, and who can be that sounding board, that mirror, that place of a sort of loving but challenge, like who cares about who you're becoming and is contending with you for that future. So it's not just somebody you're golfing with or hanging out with, as fun as that is. It's somebody who is attending to the life of God in you and helping you be responsive to what God's doing in your life. Those are vital roles. So you need a page, you need a person, and then you need a plan. And so this is how it sort of ties into all the things that you guys are dreaming about that I think is so important. Again, doing the plan is a whole separate thing and also matters, but even the forming of a plan, it starts your wheels turning. Well, what would be the mechanics of a plan? What would be the dimensions of growth that I would be looking to support? When we work with groups, we anchor a lot around those 5 dimensions of flourishing that come out of the Human Flourishing Project at Harvard, and in collaboration with lots of great Christian and secular organizations. But human flourishing that's God's first game. It's the vision of shalom, of how are we living the life that God has intended for us. So so a page, a person, and a plan is now my answer to what's the one thing. And sometimes when we think about like any way of inviting leaders into the health of their own soul, We usually need, the page person plan becomes the answer. The other piece that we're finding really helpful is the role of assessment and giving people a pretty accessible, pretty quick to go through assessment of what's current for them, what's going on for them in these different dimensions. And when you couple together an assessment and then with some intentionality around what you might do, our hope is to see the health of leaders' souls really begin to rise and stay at a place that becomes a new norm.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more finance, governance, and fundraising news and insights for your church or ministry.